Good morning again. My name is Prit Patel, and I'm with the North Central Texas Economic Development District, which is part of the North Central Texas COG. Lucille Johnson and I are the two staff members who manage the district. And we want to welcome you this morning to the webinar. We are just so excited to host the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Office this morning. They have been absolutely wonderful partners to work with, and we are so grateful for their time and presentation to the region this morning. The way the webinar will run is the USDA will provide an overview of 4 of their broad program areas, and this will last about 40 minutes. Once that presentation is done, we will open up 4 breakout rooms. Each of those breakout rooms will focus on one of those 4 program areas, and you'll have the opportunity to Sorry, I had a technical issue there. You will have an opportunity to join any one of those breakout rooms. We will be recording each of the breakout sessions. So if you're in one room and you're interested in hearing about what was discussed in a second or third or fourth room, we will be sharing links to all those recordings with you all after the webinar today. And before we open up those breakout rooms, I will provide you with some instructions on how to join a room or how to move from one room to another room. So with the interest of time and moving forward the webinar, I will turn the webinar over to the USDA. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lillian Salerno, and I'm the State Director for the Rural Development Office of the United States Department of Agriculture, and actually hail from the region, Little Elm, Texas. And so I have a long history in my family in the Denton County, Grayson County area, and have a lot of respect for what economic development folks do, and have personally benefited from folks taking care of small towns in North Texas and seeing how planning affects change. So appreciate all the work that you all do. We're thrilled to be here and really wanted an opportunity for the town economic development leaders across North Texas to know our program leaders, a real face with a real name, so that they know who they're dealing with on our wide variety of programs. And just want to give you a brief introduction, and then I've got to hop up, but we have a great team here. We have Alan Lambright, who is our single family housing program director, who's based out of McKinney, and he'll explain our affordable housing and single family housing opportunities to this group. And we have Daniel Torres, who's based out of our Temple, Texas office, who runs our business and industry programs. And we have some new programs that are being introduced, and he'll have an opportunity to go over those with you. And then we have Michael Canales, who runs our community facilities and water programs, and he's based out of Temple, and he'll go over the programs that we have that can help small towns regarding infrastructure and water systems. And then we'll have Joe Bradley, who works out of Texas and handles Texas for all of our telecom and utility programs. Basically, USDA is a federal agency called was called by Abraham Lincoln the People's Department when it was developed after the Civil War. And a lot of people don't know that it also has a huge bank attached to it, a bank that holds about a $234 billion portfolio that's there to help the rural part of this country to retain rural prosperity, and also be there so we can support our food and agricultural systems. And with that $234 billion portfolio, we have about 40 programs that are administered through either loans and some grants, and that's the items that our team will go over with you today. And all those programs are designed to do one thing: make sure that rural America prospers. When rural America prospers, so does the rest of the country. We're not a flyover country. We need all these small towns to help our entire economy, especially in a place as big as Texas, where we have huge road systems and small towns that help fuel our economy as well as our agricultural regions. And do I have a slide deck, Jennifer? And first wanted to thank Prit and her team, and Lucille for asking us to present today. We're thrilled to do it. This gives us a wide audience, and quite frankly, because of COVID, we just haven't been out there as much as we would like to, and this gives us a way to sort of jumpstart you all's our relationship with you all. In addition to administering over 40 programs, we have, maintained an investment in these communities and have to do all the things that a bank does, like make sure our investments are solid. And depending on which program that you participate in depends on whether or not we have availability. Smaller towns get more help. With like water systems and that kind of stuff. It's, Frisco, Texas is not one of the programs that we can go in and do water systems are because of its size, but we can do it in smaller towns. And then we also have opportunities for folks in businesses that don't have folks in businesses and nonprofits that don't have access to capital. We have small investment opportunities, as well as we guarantee lenders so that we make sure that lenders go into these small towns. We also have, monies for sewers and waste disposal systems and electricity and telecom and broadband. And some of our programs are administered nationally. And that's the part that Joe Bradley, who's one of our leadership down here in Texas, that will be explaining. And of course, housing is one of our programs that a lot of folks know about, and Alan Lambright will be explaining that. And then we have 4 regions throughout the country, rural development, which is based, we have about 5,000 employees nationally. We have a little over 100 here in Texas. We'd like more, we'd like to do more, and we've all been asked to do more with less. But in Texas, we have 4 area offices and I think 25 small offices across Texas. And sometimes we co-office with our federal partner, which is the Farm Service Agency or the National Resource Conservation Service. But we're the ones that, we consider ourselves community developers and economic developers. And then we have about 400 offices across the country, but in Texas we have 25 offices. And then for your region, we have one in Decatur and in McKinney and I guess Hillsborough. I'm just thinking of everything north, but Alan can speak to that. And I guess we'll start off, and I really appreciate y'all jumping on this call, and I'll turn it over to Alan Lambright, who's our single family housing program director. And thank y'all for having me and our team.
So, well, thank you, ma'am. Good to see you this morning. So again, Alan Lambright, I'm the housing program director. I am located in McKinney. I see a lot of familiar names on the call today. And in my previous life, I was the area director for all of our programs here in North Texas. So recently transitioning into the role of the housing program director for the state. So I'm going to give a quick kind of 60,000-foot overview of a few of those housing programs that we offer through rural development, and then hopefully you'll join me in the breakout session and we can get down in the weeds a little bit more. So, Jen, I believe you've got the slide deck, so if you'll go to the next one there. So again, just the 3 that we're going to highlight today is our direct and guaranteed single family housing program for the purchase of homes. Then one that every community out there needs, a little repair program in the form of some loans and grants. And then one that kind of also another repair program that we do call a housing preservation grant program, which I see Molly Gard on the call here. Hi, Molly. Texoma Council of Governments actually had a housing preservation grant several years ago. So even the COGs are eligible for those funds. So how about the next slide there, Jen? So again, we're going to just really hit the high level on these in the interest of time, but our kind of bread and butter housing program that we offer is our direct loan program. This year nationwide, we'll spend about $1.2 million in that direct loan program. Again, as the name implies, USDA Rural Development sits as the lender and the servicer on these. It's geared to owner-occupied housing that are low and very low income families. One of the best benefits of that program is that we do have the ability to provide payment subsidy to those who qualify, down to as low as 1% interest. So we can make that home extremely affordable. Our current interest rate's 3.25. So even if they were at the maximum interest rate, they're going to be at below market of what the market's doing right now. So fabulous interest rate. Again, they would apply directly through one of our local offices. A little bit different program that's offered under that umbrella of guaranteed housing. That they would utilize one of the local lenders or mortgage companies. A little bit higher income family that we're dealing with there. We would go off the moderate income limits, but still, again, can be 100% financing. Great program. We'll do about 400 million alone in Texas this year. Those are market rates and market terms in that program. So next slide. This program, if you ever hear me talk, I don't care what I'm talking about, I'm going to mention our 504 loan and grant program. Great program that we always have a little bit of money left at the end of the year, and we can always do one more than we did. But this program is geared to those who own their home. They must be very low income to qualify. But here, if we're doing a loan, it's going to be a 1% loan up to 20 years. Again, geared at health and safety repairs. Doesn't necessarily have to be health and safety repairs. And it looks like we're missing a couple of zeros off that last bullet there. I apologize, Jen, for missing that. But we could do a loan up to $40,000 in our repair loan program. We can combine that potentially, if they're eligible, if they're over 62 and very low income, with a grant of up to $10,000. If we're going to do a grant, it must be for health and safety issues. And it gives you some examples there: roof, septic, electrical. Sometimes we can get a little bit of creative, but it is not for cosmetic type repairs in there. Again, we can combine them. If we're doing a loan, if we stay under $7,500 loan, we don't take a lien on their property. So we can do a lot of good to the families out there. Next slide, please. And then we'll close here with one that's geared more to our nonprofit organizations or communities to do. They're applying for a pool of money in what we term a housing preservation grant. Texas had a very successful this year. This year we funded 10 projects, about $2.6 million. Average grant that we gave to an entity was right around $250,000, $300,000. But that entity will then in turn re-grant that money out into the community. They'll set the parameters a little bit of what their grant program would look like. But the basics there is, oops, let's go to the next slide there. How about that, Jen? And we'll get to some basics in there. You know, for repairing to owner-occupied homes. There is a provision in there that if the grant wanted to be for rental property, you could set it up strictly for rental property. You can't combine the two where it was for where the grant would be for owner-occupied and rental property. You'd have to specify which one you were going to do. Best part about that program, back to the entity, is that there are some provisions in there to include some administrative expenses. That program is competed on an annual basis. You can see the link down there, but if you subscribe to any of the Federal Register notices, it would appear when you got the alerts for that program. Next slide, please. I think that closes it out there. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about single-family housing, the things we can do, please join us in the breakout session. So I'll turn it over to Danny, I believe.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Danny Torres. I'm the Business and Cooperative Programs Director for Rural Development here in Texas. And as Director Salerno pointed out, we have about 40-something different programs that USDA Rural Development administers. Jen, next slide, please. So on your screen, you'll see some of the more popular ones that are covered under Rural Business Cooperative Service. Rural Business Cooperative Service is authorized to administer 18 programs spanning nearly every aspect of business and entrepreneurship. On this slide, we have listed some of the ones that are the most popular, and I'll also provide some additional details on these during my presentation. Next slide. So here we have what do we fund and the types of projects. Here we've broken it out into 5 different programs. The first one on the slide is the B&I Guaranteed Loan Program. And B&I stands for Business and Industry Guaranteed Loans. Basically, that's a commercial loan guarantee that is originated through a commercial lender. And what the agency does is guarantee the loan that bank is making. It provides them an opportunity to maybe make loans that they ordinarily would not be able to make because of their size or because of other reasons. Also on this slide, we have the REAP guaranteed loans. REAP stands for Rural Energy for America program, and that is also a guaranteed loan, a similar concept to the B&I, but it's targeting specifically renewable energy and energy efficiency type projects. We have the Value Added Producer Grant Program, which is targeting ag producers. That can be, grants can be made available for feasibility studies, business plans. Ag producers that are already producing some type of value-added commodity can also receive grants for working capital to assist with their business operations. Then we have the Rural Business Development Grant, which the acronym is RBDG. That is a grant program that is available to assist with various types of community or economic development in the rural areas. And some of the more common purposes for that are things such as technical assistance. We can fund revolving loan funds. We can provide infrastructure for things such as business parks and things like that. Then we also have a REAP grant, which also is Renewable Energy for America program. And that is for the same type of projects that the REAP guaranteed loan is used for, except that this is a grant. And the grant can be for up to 25% of the cost of the project being developed. Next slide, please. So here, providing a little more details on the Rural Business Development Grant. This grant program provides grant money to assist with economic development planning and or the financing or expansion of rural businesses. The program is designed to provide assistance for small rural businesses. And this program defines small as a business that has fewer than 50 employees and less than $1 million, less than $1 million in gross revenue. Again, 15 unit workers and less than 1 million in gross revenue is how small is defined under this program. So this program is one which funds are allocated to the state every year. Annual funding cycles are announced in a NOSA, which is published each year, and it specifies the application submission dates. Typically, those application submission dates range from January to March of each year, and the actual grant awards are made sometime during the summer. These applications are submitted directly to the area office that serves the area where the project will be located. And a typical applicant for this type of grant could be a municipality, a nonprofit corporation, or a college or university. The Rural Business Development Grant funds must be used for projects that benefit rural areas or towns outside the urbanized periphery of a city with a population of 50,000 or less. Now, some of our other USDA rural development programs have different definitions of rural. So as you're looking into some of these programs, make sure that you're aware of what the definition for rural is for that specific program. Most of the rural business development programs actually use the 50,000 population, but some of our other programs have lower thresholds. There's no maximum grant amount. However, smaller requests are given higher priority, and there is no cost sharing or matching requirement for this program. Next slide, please. So next we have the Business and Industry Guaranteed Loan Program. And the purpose of that program is to improve the economic health of rural communities by increasing access to business capital by offering loan guarantees to commercial lenders for their loans to rural businesses. And as I said earlier, these are also targeting populations of 50,000 or less, except for projects that deal with local or regional food systems, can also be used in areas that are not considered rural. They can be used in urban areas as well. The loan terms for these typically are up to 30 years, and funds can be used to guarantee things such as in any kind of legal type business, such as a hotel, a commercial type property, manufacturing, wholesale projects, energy projects, and things like that. There is a 3% guarantee fee for these type of loans, and the maximum loan can go up to 25 million. The guarantee typically is 80% of the loan amount. Next slide, please. So now we get into the energy programs. The Rural Energy for America program promotes energy efficiency improvements and development of renewable energy systems for agriculture producers and rural small businesses. Next slide. Funds may be used for renewable energy systems such as biomass, for example, biodiesel and ethanol, anaerobic digesters and solid fuels, geothermal for electrical generation or direct use, hydropower below 30 megawatts, small and large wind generation, small and large solar generation. Funds may also be used for the purchase, installation, and construction of energy efficiency improvements, such as high efficiency heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, installation, lighting, cooling, or refrigeration units, doors and windows, electric, solar, or gravity pumps for sprinkler pivots, switching from a diesel or electric irrigation motor, and replacement of energy efficiency equipment. So there's two components to the Rural Energy for America program. One is renewable energy, which has to do with producing energy from a renewable energy resource. The other is energy efficiency, which targets improving systems or processes or equipment that will conserve on the use of energy. Next slide, please. So some of the main points of the grant program are that grants can be made up to $500,000 or 25% of the eligible project cost, whichever is less. That's for renewable energy. Now, for energy efficiency, a grant can be made up to $250,000 or 25% of the cost of the project. One thing about this program is that the recent Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 is actually targeting significant additional funding for this program. So we expect to have a lot more activity in this program, and are really going to be promoting it this year. Next slide, please. So now we get into the food supply chain programs. Director Salerno mentioned that we had some new programs that are targeting the food supply chain. And the Food Supply Chain Guaranteed Loan Program is a part of USDA's Build Back Better initiative to strengthen critical supply chains in our food system. This program guarantees loans of up to $40 million for qualified lenders to finance food system projects, specifically for the startup or expansion of activities in the middle of the supply chain. The program will support new investments in infrastructure for food aggregation, processing, manufacturing, storage, transportation, wholesaling, and distribution to increase capacity and create a more resilient, diverse, and secure U.S. food supply chain. Some of the main highlights of the program are listed there on the slide. One of the big differences between this and the guaranteed loan program for business and industry that I mentioned earlier is that this program can actually go up to 40 million instead of 25 million. The guarantee percentage is 90% instead of 80%, and there's no guarantee fees to the borrower. This one is also available in urban and rural areas. So there's no rural area restriction on this program. This can include things such as the purchase and the development of land, buildings, and associated infrastructure for commercial or industrial purposes. It can also include financing for working capital. Interest rates are negotiated between the lender and the borrower. And there are feasibility study requirements for each one of these projects. Since there is an expansion component to it, a feasibility study must address that expansion component is something that is feasible. This program will be funded with approximately $1.4 billion, and the funds will be available until fully utilized. Next slide, please. Next, back up one, please. The Meat and Poultry Intermediary Lending Program is also one of the programs that are under that same initiative to strengthen the food supply chain. So there's $125 million will be available for grants to intermediary lenders who finance or plan to finance the startup, expansion, or operating of a slaughter or other processing of meat and poultry. The objective of the Meat and Poultry Intermediary Lending Program is to strengthen the financing capacity for independent meat processing and to create a more resilient, diverse, and secure U.S. food supply chain. These grants are typically made to private nonprofits, public agencies, or tribes. And again, like the Food Supply Chain Guaranteed Loan, this can be used for land, construction, equipment, and so on. The difference between this is that this is a grant to an intermediary who is going to turn around and make smaller loans to eligible businesses within their service area. This grant can be up to $15 million, and the next application window will be November 1st to December 31st of this year. Next slide, please. So this slide just kind of basically illustrates some of the factors that have prompted the USDA to and this administration to focus on some of these programs that will help with the food supply chain. As you can see, there are big meat processors control the market. In 2021, 4 large packing companies held 85% of the beef market, 70% of the pork market, and 54% of the poultry market. Big processors can use their market power to increase prices and underpay farmers. This impacts the producer as well. 50 years ago, ranchers were getting much more for their commodity than they are now. And this includes both the beef and poultry producers. And this also has a very significant impact on our price of meat and beef and poultry at the grocery store. American consumers are bearing the cost of increased food prices driven by the meat and poultry sector. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Danny. And now we're going to send it over to Mike Canales with Community Programs.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for participating today and having us speak to you guys regarding our rural development programs here. My name is Michael Canales, and I am the Community Programs Director for USDA Rural Development. My staff and I oversee all the water and wastewater infrastructure programs, as well as the essential community facilities programs for the state. Community programs is divided into 2 separate areas. One is the water environmental programs, and the other is community facilities. So today I'll be giving you a brief overview of both of those programs, and hopefully we'll get into a better discussion in the breakout session regarding those programs. And hopefully you'll be able to see how the different programs can support the long-term sustainability of a rural community. I'm going to start off this morning with the community facilities. So next slide, please. So essential community infrastructure is key to ensuring that rural areas enjoy the same basic quality of life and services beyond that's afforded to or enjoyed by the most urbanized areas. This program, the community facilities, provides affordable funding to develop essential community facilities in rural areas. The definition of an essential community facility is basically is a facility that provides an essential service to the local community for the orderly development of that community, primarily a rural area, and it does not include private, commercial, or business undertakings. The Community Facilities Program offers various funding mechanisms to bring forth that orderly development of community. We've got various funding mechanisms such as direct loans, grants, and guaranteed loans. Under the direct loan program, affordable funding is provided to develop an essential community facility. And the loans under this program are direct loans that are administered and overseen by the agency itself. Loans can be made up to 40 years with a fixed interest rate for the long term, for the entire term of the loan. In some particular cases, usually smaller projects, we're able to fund those primarily with a grant. You're looking at typically, fire trucks or vehicles, communications equipment, smaller hospital equipment, emergency room equipment, things like that. Grants under the community facilities programs are made in increments of 15, 35, 55, or 75%. Based on the population of the facility and the median household income of the service area. For those types of projects, the difference or the balance remaining can either be made through a loan, funding from another source, or the applicant can contribute the difference to complete that project. The third option that we have as far as funding community facilities programs or projects is the guarantee loan. Similar to the business and industry guarantee loan, this is a lender-driven program where the lender makes the loan to the entity. If the lender applies to the agency for a guarantee, the guarantees can be made up to 80% of the lender's loans with interest rates that are negotiated between the two parties. Under the community facilities programs, the applicants or who can apply for the funding are public bodies, which are your cities or towns or municipal type entities, your nonprofit corporations, and your federally recognized Indian tribes. Applicants for these programs must be located in rural areas of less than 20,000 in population, except the guaranteed loan, which is the population limit for that has gone all the way up to 50,000. Next slide, please, Jen. So under the community facilities programs, funds can be used for many, many different aspects. Essentially a project that will develop a community and build it up can potentially be funded under the community facilities. As you see there from the slide, we have had option to fund some healthcare facilities such as hospitals, medical clinics, etc., assisted living facilities, nursing homes, and things like that. Public facilities, which will serve a rural community as town halls, city halls, courthouses, street and road improvements, community support centers such as community centers or fairgrounds, public safety projects, including fire departments, police stations, things like that, and equipment and things related to those types of entities. And then utility services such as telemedicine and DLT equipment. That one is a little bit different, and I believe Mr. Bradley will speak a little bit more on that type of funding. We also have the ability to fund local food systems such as community gardens, food pantries, things like that. Something that's not mentioned in there is that I can see is libraries. So we've got a couple of library projects going on. Typically what we look at on those types of projects or any of these types of projects that are non-municipally, that are not applied for by municipalities is the support from the local rural community. Typically, nonprofit organizations under the community facilities program must have significant ties to that local rural community, either through control by a local board and representation through membership, or being a part of a funding stream by the municipality. So if the municipality is providing funds to a nonprofit on a regular basis, on a guaranteed basis, then that would demonstrate enough that it's got sufficient ties to the local rural community with the tie to the municipality itself. Again, so under the community facilities programs, projects that support public health, public service, public safety, and education are generally able to be funded as long as they primarily serve a rural area and are located in cities or towns or unincorporated areas of less than 20,000 in population. Next slide, Jen. So the other half of the community programs umbrella that we administer in our state office is the water environmental programs. Through the Rural Utility Service, water environmental programs provides technical assistance and financing necessary to develop drinking water and wastewater disposal systems. Safe drinking water, as you know, and sanitary waste disposal systems are not only vital to public health, but also to the vitality and the development of a local rural community. Next slide. Who may apply for these types of funds? So we've got three basic entities that can apply for these types of funding. You've got most state and local governmental entities, private nonprofit corporations, and federally recognized Indian tribes. Applicants for this program must be located in areas of under 10,000 in population and must serve a rural area. As Mr. Torres indicated, the rule definition for the various programs is different. So as you're looking at trying to apply for something, it is critical to determine what that population limit to determine whether or not you'd be eligible for this types of funding. As far as the funding goes, we have several mechanisms similar to that of the community facilities programs. We have direct loans and grants, we have guarantees, and we have several other programs that can help with technical assistance and pre-development. The first program that we've got is our direct loan and grant program. So this program assists qualified applicants who are not able to obtain commercial credit at reasonable rates and terms. The term for this program is up to 40 years, and the interest rate is based on the need of the project and the eligibility of the area being served. Grant eligibility under this program is dependent on several factors, including the median household income of the service area, similar systems cost, and the availability of funds. We also have a guarantee program, just like our CF program and our BNI guarantee program, where the entity would apply for funding through a lender, and then the lender would apply for a guarantee through the agency. Again, that's up to an 80% guarantee with a payback of up to 40 years negotiated by the lender and the applicant as well. One of the other programs that we have that may or may not be applicable, most likely is not applicable to the audience that we have here, is our 306C Colonia program. Basically, that is for the development of water, essential first-time water and wastewater systems in areas within 150 miles of the Texas-Mexico border that have been determined to be or classified as colonias prior to October 1st of 1989. So again, North Texas is probably not going to be eligible for any of those types of programs there. What we do have, besides these three main programs, are other programs that can assist, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, for pre-development and planning. We've got our pre-development planning grant, which and our search grants, which allow up to $30,000 in grants for the development of preliminary engineering reports, feasibility studies, and environmental assessments. Those programs are applicable to entities that are 80% below the state non-metropolitan median household income. And one of the other programs that we have, that's one of those specialty type programs under certain circumstances, is our ECWAG program, which is our Emergency Community Water Assistance Grant. If there is a situation that has affected the quantity and quality of a system's water capability, then if it is as a result of a specific event, not necessarily a disaster declaration, we can afford up to or provide up to $150,000 for repairs to distribution systems, and up to $1 million in funding for water source issues. So to give you an idea of what that may be is say, for instance, a well collapse, water source, to drill a new well, that's the event. The collapse of the well is the event. we could potentially fund up to $1 million based on the entity's qualifications to drill a new well and have all that infrastructure replaced. For amount $150,000, you're looking at, say for instance, a line breaks because of a drought in the shrinking soil or swelling soil in the event of a rain event. That distribution line, the repairs to that, when we tie it to that specific event, can qualify for up to $150,000 in grant monies for that. So under community programs, again, the purpose of that is to build up a community from the ground up. Under the CF, we're looking at public health, public service, public safety, and education. And under the water environmental programs, you're looking at basic infrastructure to provide water, wastewater, solid waste, and stormwater drainage programs. So that concludes my program right now. Please join me in the breakout room for more details. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael Canales. Now we have Joe Bradley, and he is going to talk to us about our key telecom programs, telecommunications programs.
Well, good morning, folks. Joe Bradley. I'm based in Abilene, Texas. I cover all of Texas with the nationally driven programs that they're about to talk about. Next slide, please. So the broadband side of things, there's a couple of key programs here. One is the CommuniConnect grant program. It's a yearly authorized program. We expect it to open up sometime in December of this year. It's a great little program. It has a lot less complexity than, say, the ReConnect program, but it has a great focus when it comes to providing broadband to where basically it could be a wide spot in the road serving ranches or farms or small communities and things of this sort. Again, it's a grant. The next is the ReConnect Loan and Grant Program Round 4. It closes November 2nd, but it has the same focus, loans and grants, and just in a larger scope. Then, of course, the last one is the Telecom Infrastructure Loan. I won't cover that because primarily it's for telephone companies, ILECs, incumbent local exchange carriers, et cetera. But again, I won't cover that, but we'll get into the weeds a little bit on the other two. Next slide, please. Who can come in for these loans and grants? Pretty much standard across our program. Corporations, states, local governments, counties, public utility departments, Indian tribes, but you really want to check with the Texas Utility Commission on any other requirements consistent with who you are. If it's a municipal network that you're looking at, how that's going to impact and what the Texas Utilities Commission has to say about it. But the important thing to remember is that each program has a particular focus and fairly lengthy details about where you can go, and primarily all of our programs under the telecommunications program is for non-rural, and non-rural for me for these programs of this sort is 20,000 and less. We actually have a drawing or a map that shows you where those areas are. Next slide, please. The CommuniConnect grant along the top bar there, it's a grant, areas with population of 20K or less. Last year, and again, all this is based upon last year's requirements, and the announcement may have slight changes, and I'm not quite sure what those will be, but those will be announced, and you really want to go based upon that when you're looking at the application or considering using this program. Last year was up to 100,000 as a minimum, 3 million total. 15% of that was had to be a match. The broadband service, and I know this is lower speed stuff, but last year it was what we consider broadband was 10 down, 1 up, and then you had to build out for 25.3 when it comes to speed. You can submit your application online. We expect it to open in December, and then down below there is available funding in past program updates and things of this sort for funding. Next slide, please. The ReConnect program, this program had $1.9 billion. If we look at the funding type, there's actually multiple funding types, and it has different focus: loan, grants, Loan grant combination is split up into 50-50. Areas with population of 20,000 non-rural areas, 50 million for loans and loan grant combination, 25 million for grants. And there's also specific scoring criteria for each one of those. For the grant only, 25% of that can be for match. However, there are categories that you can actually waive that match, depending upon your location. Colonias in particular. Broadband service, we classified broadband service as less than 100 by 20. If it's more than that, then we couldn't use these funds for that particular build out. The actual broadband speed to build it out was symmetrical, 100 by 100. You can submit it online until November 2nd, and there's a link there for you look at past workshops and webinar materials. Below that is available funding, 1.9. The important thing to remember is, say example, because you can't do the application between now and November 2nd, and it's a considerable application, there is 436.6 million in annual appropriations. So it could be the next round, round 5 or round 6 or whatever it may be. Then on the program updates, 305 applications submitted for 4.8 billion. So we are oversubscribed, but nonetheless, and again, it's a competitive application, but look forward to folks looking at that. Next slide, please. Distance learning and telemedicine. And if I want to be honest with myself, this is one of my favorite programs because it has an impact on so many different areas, especially with COVID and the distance we have to travel in Texas. Next slide, please. Grant funds can be used for all of the above here on the screen. One of the things that changed several years back is that we actually allow broadband facilities, which means infrastructure, and we don't care if it's wireless or wireline. It's got to be fixed wireless if it's that, or it could be fiber to the home. But it's only up to 20%, and that's what it was last year. It may change. It's only up to 20% of the grant request, but you can still do a lot of wireless to connect up that nurse practitioner or whomever that needs that backhaul speed. That's the important part, is to take a look at that to make sure that we can get the broadband out there. But it also support inside wiring, computer hardware, acquisition of instructional assistance and instruction for eligible equipment. Who can apply? Just about anybody and everybody when it comes to, as long as they meet the criteria for legal corporation and nonprofits, for-profit businesses, as well as consortia. If you have, say, a hospital group that wants to work with nurse practitioners that are out in the rural parts of Texas and things of this sort, they could. But one of the things to remember is under the distance learning telemedicine grant that you can have somebody in downtown Houston or Chicago or wherever it may be that you're trying to access that critical support from, but it's really focused on, and how you score the most is it's focused on rural parts of America. So that's where you'll get into the scoring criteria in the application guide. But so you would score lower on the large cities, or you wouldn't get additional points, but just focus in on the rural parts of Texas, or it could be rural parts of other places as well. Next slide, please. The basics again, it's a grant, primary benefits to rural areas. That's what you really want to focus in on. Funding thresholds, $50 to $1 million. 15% of the requested grant amount is match. And then there's going to be hub end user sites and things of that sort as part of your application. But you really want to focus in on that score, and we can get into that in the breakout room. Expected to open sometime in October, November timeframe. And so sign up for the alerts and things of this sort, or give me a call. We can talk about it. Next slide, please. Telecommunications programs, we've been fairly busy. I'm not bored, that's for sure. Looks like to be about over $463 million. in the various programs. So hopefully we can get some more applications in and help you guys get a competitive application. Next slide, please. Some of my little hints that I've sort of developed over the years. Now is a good time to start looking at your organizational buy-in. There's 60 to 90 days, which sounds like a lot of time, but it really isn't. And so now is a good time to do that. Sign up for that program alert so you're going to know about it. But if you send me an email, I'll put you on my Joe's Blast email list so that you guys are notified. Review current program information. That's going to get you up to speed on acronyms and definitions. There's actually past webinars, application guide. There's actually past awards that you can get ideas from. Definitely suggest you do that. Start your due diligence for external contractors for grant writing or engineering and/or determine internal support. It's a process. It's like anything else. The sooner you get ahead of it, the better. And then what you want to do is you want to maybe take a look at the match and see where you can get those matched dollars. That has to be a firm commitment in the application. So it can't be one of those things where, you know, if we get it awarded, we'll look for some match. That's not going to work. It's a competitive application nationwide. All of the programs that I deal with are nationally driven and controlled. And so next slide. Come visit me in the breakout room. Jen, back to you.
Thank you so much. I am going to stop sharing here for just a moment and join everyone on video. Hi, everyone. My name is, let me turn that on. My name is Jen Brady. I'm the Public Affairs Officer here at USDA Rural Development. Just want to thank you so much for listening to this presentation. We've got 4 subject matter experts, so I really encourage you to go into these breakout rooms and ask your questions. Specifically for those of you who are in urban areas, have a conversation because it's not a one size fits all. So yes, of course, there are certain requirements for certain programs, but talk to one of our experts and see what there may be for you or your local community. And then I also wanted to address the chat. I saw the chats going as I was sharing my screen. So what we can do is if you go to the breakout rooms, you can ask your questions directly to our experts, or if you'd like to connect with Prit later, we can email those questions, the answers to your questions and more program information if you need it after today's presentation. So that's it for me. Prit, thank you so much for putting this together. I'm going to hand it over to you for breakout rooms.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for the wonderful presentations on the 4 program areas that you presented on. Now that we've learned more about these program areas, we're going to move into breakout rooms. And the breakout rooms, as Jennifer said, are opportunities for attendees to ask specific questions of the subject matter experts, similar to an office hours session. So it's a great space to ask questions, specific questions. If you're eligible, what does funding look like? Can you share some links, etc. So in a moment, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms, but before I do that, let me explain how that's going to work. Once I open up the rooms, all attendees will see a either more or breakout rooms option at the bottom of your screen. So you will click on that option and then select the breakout session you want to attend. And as a reminder, the 4 subject areas are business, cooperative, and energy programs, community programs, single housing programs, single housing family programs, and then the key telecommunications program. So once you click on that more or breakout room option, you can move into a room. Once you're in a room, you can again click on that more or breakout room option. And if you want to move to a different room, you'll have the opportunity to do that. And as a reminder, we are recording each of the breakout room sessions. So if you're in the breakout room for housing, but you also want to know about what discussions happen in the community programs, we'll be sharing links to all of those recordings with you so that you can have that information, as well as contact information for all the staff presenting today. So we will be, again, recording those sessions. We have COG staff who will be entering each of the rooms and helping manage those rooms and monitoring the chat. So let me open up the rooms. Okay, the rooms are open and you should have the option to join any one of those program rooms. So I think everyone's back in the main room. Jennifer, is there anything you wanted to share before we close out the session?
I just wanted to thank everyone again for attending, and I just want to thank you and your wonderful team for organizing this. It's just been a great opportunity to share our programs, and thanks to our USDA subject matter experts too for presenting today and for being willing to stick around to answer questions. I think this was a great opportunity, and I hope to do more in the future. So thank you, Prit.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of you, all of the USDA staff for not just today, but for all of your work leading up to today. For our Economic Development District, this is the first time we've had this sort of format where we have a main meeting and breakout sessions. So this was a first time for us, and I think it went well, and we hope that those breakout sessions were beneficial to you. So thank you to the attendees for attending today. USDA, we are so grateful for this partnership, and we look forward to working with you and partnering in the future as we move forward. And I'm sure there are folks that attended today that will want to reach out to you directly. So we do want to let attendees know that we'll be sending the presentation slides, the website links that the USDA shared, their contact information, and then a recording of all of the different sessions to all the attendees within the next few days. It may be the early part of next week as we work through the videos. But thank you, attendees, for attending. I also want to take a moment to thank all the COG staff behind the scenes that's been working to allow us to have this new format for breakout sessions. So thank you to Janet Smith and Kelly Schmidt, Jerry Watson, Rick Norman, and then Lucille Johnson, who leads our Economic Development District. USDA, we look forward to more webinars and meetings with you all. And thank you all for attending today. Have a wonderful Tuesday.
Prit,
Yes.
I think there was a question that someone said that didn't get answered, and it was with regard to libraries with online access.
I
CP
just, this is
program.
Michael Canales. I apologize for interrupting you. I would just answer that question in the chat.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
And if you do have additional questions, attendees, after we end this webinar today, please feel free to email me and I can pass them on to the USDA. And we're certainly going to provide their contact information so that you can directly reach out to them after this session. So thank you all for attending. Have a wonderful Thursday, and we look forward to future webinars with everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.